Chomp.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to You Are Supreme Toys. Today we're going to be looking at Super7's San Diego Comic-Con exclusives, G.I. Joe Ultimates, Red Jackal, and Rednok. These are some very interesting exclusives that really take G.I. Joe Ultimates in a new direction that I did not expect. So of course we have Red Jackal here and Rednok here, which is a repaint of Destro and Baroness. As you can see right off the bat, they are sans shipper box. So I assume that from this point on, Super7 is dropping the shipper boxes from their Ultimates line. Red Jackal's box, he has this lovely skull and crossbones on the front of the box with this red camo, which looks really good. This time around, it doesn't really have that metallic finish that the first few waves of G.I. Joe Ultimates had, but it looks good. The dog tag is down here at the bottom, Red Jackal, weapons supplier. And we have Baroness with her classic Cobra logo, Rednok, intelligence officer. So let's go ahead and do a quick slip reveal. Oh, okay. I gotta say right off the bat, I really like these variants. These guys look pretty good. Here we got Red Jackal. He looks pretty amazing. It's funny how a simple repaint can make a character look so new and refreshed. Red Jackal was an Action Force repaint of the vintage 1980s Destro action figure with some slight variants in design. Action Force was a UK property created and developed by Palitoy. Palitoy later had a partnership with Hasbro to reissue Hasbro sculpts in the Action Force line with slight variations and repaints. Palitoy began to shut down, and Hasbro actually purchased Palitoy, at which point Hasbro began to take over all the Action Force designs, concepts, story art, character development, and pretty much began to import their own figures into that line in the UK. Originally, Red Jackal here began as an original Action Force character with his own backstory and bio, and that was later retconned by Hasbro for it to be a origin backstory for Destro. So Red Jackal would eventually become Destro.
Red Jackal, weapons supplier. File name unknown. Primary military specialty, infantry. Secondary military specialty, tank driver. Birthplace, Riga, Latvia. Red Jackal's real name is Anton Nabokov. He joined the Soviet army, displaying a natural talent for driving, but failed to adjust to other aspects of life in the Soviet military. Despite this trait, he was recruited to a unit with the codename Jackal. Whilst on assignment, transferring officials to a conference in Finland, the convoy he was leading was ambushed, and Nabokov escaped by driving his vehicle into a long-strewn river and using the felled trees as a raft. Following a series of operations, Nabokov emerged as the Red Jackal, altered with bionic technology, in particular an armored, steel-plated head, bionic hands, and powerful vision.
Now this Baroness repaint is something different altogether. I have issues with this. This is not technically Baroness. This is Rednok, intelligence officer. In India, there was a small set of G.I. Joe repaints that were packaged and sold as Complan Commandos. Hope I said that right. And they basically took pre-existing G.I. Joe's molds and made their own characters with unique color schemes. So there is a small handful of figures that were repainted using a various cornucopia of G.I. Joe parts. For instance, the vintage Rednok would have been a Baroness body with Lady J forearms in a solid red jumpsuit. My issue with this figure is simply this. Rednok was originally using the original Baroness jumpsuit body with the Cobra logo on the front. If Super7 was going to do a Rednok variant of Baroness, they should have waited until the second version of Baroness was released. That would have been excellent. The only real reason I could think that they did not do that, that Hasbro was about to release their G.I. Joe classified Crimson Strike Team set, which actually has a red jumpsuit Baroness in it with her classic costume. So maybe Hasbro said, no, you can do a Rednok, but she can't have a regular suit. That's the only thing I can figure that happened. That being said, the red looks pretty good. The red on the figure looks good. I would have really liked to have had a closer representation of the Rednok figure. And maybe we can get that later down the line. Kaplan Commandos was made by Fun School Toys. They actually had the rights to distribute G.I. Joe in India under the Fun School brand.
Rednok, India release, Intelligence Officer, Primary Military Specialty, Intelligence, Secondary Military Specialty, Fixed Wing Pilot, Birthplace, Classified. Rednok studied and competed in 3 forms of martial arts from the time she was 7 until she graduated from her school of martial arts. Post-graduation, she took a vacation to Japan where she discovered that her family had been ninjas for generations, and she was officially initiated into the clan. She is a qualified expert in all military small arms, black belt in 12 different fighting systems, and highly skilled in the use of edged weapons. The commando team like to have her along their side whenever they go on a special mission, regardless of what field of fire the bad guys control. The night belongs to Rednok.
So here we have 2 completely different parts of the world represented here with the G.I. Joe brand. Let's go ahead and pop these guys out of the box and see how they stack up. Alright, so let's take a look at Red Jackal here. I really love the red pupils, and the silver inside the eye sockets and lips are a different shade of the silver that is on the head and neck, which makes it stand out very well. I love the little skull and crossbones here on the chest. The original Red Jackal had a much bigger skull and crossbones, but I think the smaller one is okay considering what they had to work with. I like the white collar. It stands out very well against the red and black. The silver bracers are painted well. And of course he has the 2 little belts painted on his thigh, which aren't that clean, but they are okay. I really like the gloss of the boots and the gloves. It's really set apart from the more matte finish of the jumpsuit. He is exactly the same as the first release Destro, so all his articulation is going to be the same as that figure. He is a tad gummy in the arm on this joint. It's not so much on this side, but for some reason this side is a little bit gummy. I don't know why. Of course, he's got all the different points of articulation, and his joints are pretty clean. They're not too tight or too loose. I did notice this just now. There's a terrible little paint mess around the belt where the belt paint had stuck to the waist. But he's pretty much just a swivel anyway. Of course, his hips are pretty well articulated. They feel a bit gummy too for some reason. His knees are tight. Single hinge knees and his rocker ankles. There is no boot cut. So Red Jackal here looks good. I think he's a decent repaint of Destro. Let's bring in the first release Destro here. And you can obviously see it's a nice little juxtaposition. I like both of these actually. I like the red shirt. I like the different color boots and gloves and the collar. This is a very good variant. I think it's very fitting. It's light enough to where you look at it and you know it's Destro, but it's not too garish so that it's distracting. As you can see, the first release has green eyes. I think I really like these red eyes better. Here's the same yelling head. As you can see, the silver on Red Jackal is slightly darker. Red Jackal comes with 2 alternate heads. his yelling head and his laughing head, which are slightly darker than the original heads as mentioned. He has a red pair of binoculars, which the first Destro came with these in blue, and a giant red pistol, which the first Destro came with in gray. He also comes with a black version of the gun that came with first released Baroness. He has 2 wristbands with grenades, whereas the first released Destro only came with 1. Red Jackal grenades are painted, and the Destro grenades are a red plastic, and the silver band is slightly darker on Red Jackals. He also comes with 2 of these launchers, and the Destro launcher is here on the right with Red Jackals on the left. It's really difficult to tell the difference other than the dark silver on the bands. He also comes with 4 extra hands, 2 of which are these pointing hands and 2 gripping hands. And as you can see, Destro's hands are silver and Red Jackal's are black. He also comes with a backpack that is painted black, silver, and red. This is a really nice backpack. It's got soft straps. I think this backpack is coming with a future released figure because I don't recall this being with Wave 1 or Wave 2. Red Jackal is kind of light on accessories compared to Destro. He is missing 1 pair of hands, an extra head, a rocket launcher, and a number of other ridiculous accessories that came with the figure. I think sometimes there are too many accessories, and considering this is a exclusive based upon a foreign released figure, that he didn't need all those episode specific accessories anyway. How his head pops off pretty good. Second head, a little tough to get on there. Pop his hands off. Get my trigger finger. As I've mentioned in previous reviews for these G.I. Joe Ultimates, be cautious with these soft straps as the bands are glued into place, and if you stress them too far, you will break the glue holding them onto the backpack. Now the collar kind of forces the bands to the side of his shoulders, which is very noticeable from the front, but he does wear the backpack pretty well. It holds on there pretty good. And as ridiculous as it is, this toy-inspired giant red pistol is pretty great. This guy is great. This is a very good variant and a very good exclusive. It's something not everybody would need or want, but for those who are super fanatics about vintage G.I. Joe variants and foreign release figures, this is an excellent figure. He was $55. It's hard to be like, yeah, he's worth $55, but I think he's okay. I think the price tag's not too bad. He definitely could have been cheaper, and I feel like probably should be cheaper, but it's Super7. It's the going rate for their Ultimates. It's what they're going to charge because it's what people pay. If you're going to pick up any of these 2 figures, definitely get him. He just looks wonderful with that silver, black, and red. So let's bring Rednok back in here. And I don't know. I like the red jumpsuit. I am just not happy with the version they chose to represent Rednok. I do like the red glasses, and the face paint is not terrible. The glasses are a little bit sloppy around the rim, like on the top right there. She has very minimal paint apps, and the paint apps she has aren't the best. I do not like the gray shoulder and belt straps. They just look sloppy all around, especially the one around her neck. I'm going to pop her head off real quick because there was an issue with the first release that looked really bad, and this one's not as bad. The first release one I had a very ugly, nasty neck here behind the hair, but this one, it's okay. She has some semi-glossy gloves and boots. I really like the boots. The striping down the side of the pants is not very clean. It's kind of sloppy and out of line. So I'm getting a lot of the same vibes with this figure as I did from the first release. I wasn't a fan of the first release Baroness in really any aspect, but I think maybe this red looks just a little bit better than the blue. So let's bring in first release Baroness, and as you can see, it is pretty much night and day in comparison. The red and blue are very drastically different, and if anything though, looking at it, these two figures kind of complement each other very well, and I feel like they'll complement each other on the shelf, so I might just display them together. Completely the same figure. The hair on Rednok is a little bit more glossy in the finish. And of course, first release Baroness has green tinted glasses. Her articulation is going to be exactly the same as Baroness, and she suffers from the same issues, so I assume these figures were produced at the same time. They both have that super wobbly upper torso, which annoys the bejesus out of me. Of course, she's got the head articulation. The shoulders are really good. She has really gummy arms. I don't like the gumminess in the arms. Elbows, wrists. Nothing's stuck. Nothing's terribly out of place. She has a slight waist twist. Not really a good one. Of course, her hips have hinges and swivels. And she does a good range of motion. Knees. She has a boot cut. And of course her hinged rocker stiletto boots. Rednok also comes with two alternate heads. She has her smirking head and her round glasses head with shorter hair. I like the shorter haired version. It's got a gray, sort of a gray wash on it. There's a big difference with the wash on the round glasses faces. This is first release Baroness. It looks pretty bad. I like the wash on the hair, but the face paint and the glasses are not very good. The face on the Rednok head is a lot better, and I love the rose tinted glasses. Rednok comes with this completely red painted rifle with a strap. This is terrible. This is I do not know why they painted this red. This should not have been painted red. They should have just molded it in the colored plastic, because you're going to have issues where these tiny little pegs on this strap are going to get stuck inside the holes. It's also a very soft, pliable plastic. It's just all around kind of gummy and not very good. The color is great. It's just, I don't know, I think it was poorly executed with the decision to completely paint the strap and the rifle. As you can see, the paint wants to come off of the strap already. And this is the rifle that came with first release Baroness. It is a black plastic, and it is gummy too, so it kind of is warping. Rednok comes with a black version of the gun that came with Baroness, which is gray. Rednok comes with a black pistol, whereas Baroness's was gray. And Rednok comes with a gray pistol holster, whereas Baroness's was this yellow plastic. She has 4 extra hands in this lovely glossy red. Got 2 gripping hands, a pointing hand, and a trigger finger. Again, Rednok is light on accessories compared to Baroness, who came with a few numerous other items like that masked head, a different gun, some extra hands, a knife, and a syringe. So Rednok only has 6 hands, whereas Baroness had 8. Again, I do not mind that she has less accessories. I think it's better that they have less accessories. See how our hands swap off. A little holster pegged right here in her waist. Doesn't go very well. So big. You have to really get it right on there. It's hard to push it in. Gosh, it's just too soft. It's too soft to go in the hole. So she said. And this pops open with a little peg. You can actually fit her pistol inside, just like with Baroness. The trick is getting it to close. It's really hard to get that peg back in there once you've gotten it out. And it wants to fall off anyway. I'm not going to use this. As I mentioned, I do like the red, and I really like this spy uniform look. Her biggest issue is wanting to stand. This brings me back to my point with my previous reviews, where I wish they would have given these figures stands, just like the vintage action figures, because they could have really benefited from that. As is, I think these guys are okay. I love the red. Red Jackal definitely takes the cake with this set. Rednok is okay. She's not as bad as that blue jumpsuit Baroness, but she's still not great. I think the accessory count is okay. I think the accessories included are okay. I kind of like this direction with variants and exclusives. I think if Super 7 keeps these kinds of variants exclusive and not shoehorn them into the main line, I think they'll do okay. There are so many other foreign released variants of vintage Joe characters that they could do, and the fact that they did either of these leaves a lot of promise that they'll continue to do that. I'm down for that. Again, my biggest nitpick is it's the wrong suit for Rednok. I would have liked to have seen a more toy accurate head sculpt included with Red Jackal. Price wise, Baroness is not a $55 figure. That is a $25 figure tops. She's just not good enough to warrant a $55 price tag. I don't care how exclusive it is. I was able to secure these two figures from Super 7's website directly, as they had stock remaining from the conventions. And as far as I'm aware, they still have stock available, and you can also order these from other retailers like Big Bad Toy Store. This has been an unboxing and review of G.I. Joe Ultimates, Red Jackal, and Rednok from San Diego Comic-Con 2023 from Super 7. And I am UR Supreme Toys. Thank you so much for watching.